Okay, so the Fast and Furious franchise presents its audience with a very simple dichotomy. Man or car. Everything is one or the other. Men are, of course, men, and cars are cars, but women are also cars. That is, they're these beautiful objects to be used and admired by men. And cars are passive, so they exist only to exert the will of the man, and often they're even kind of interchangeable with each other. By driving a car, a woman can temporarily transcend into manhood, but often we'll just see a woman and more effeminate male villains riding motorcycles, which allow their vulnerable bodies to remain on display. Men love cars, and cars love to be driven by men. It's easy, but John Carpenter's 1983 movie Christine, which is an adaptation of Stephen King's novel published earlier that year, complicates the man-car binary. So, Christine is this movie about Arnie. He's a loser, he's a soft boy, he wears a pocket protector, and he doesn't get any respect from his parents or from the 30-year-old bullies at school that try to pull a knife on him. On the other hand, Arnie's best friend, and his only friend, is Dennis, who's a football player. This is a friendship uncorrupted by social stratifications and rooted in the simpler things.
Or what, Arnie? Fellatio. On a triple word score for 24 points in the game?
But good and simple things like this can't last forever, so we throw Christine into the mix, and Christine is the car. That's the name of the car. This car has a name, and it's Christine. Sorry. Even if you haven't seen Christine, you may be familiar with it as part of a storied lineage of movies about people who have what I would call adult relations with some kind of motor vehicle. If you don't know what I'm talking about, I don't know what to tell you. There are a lot of movies like this. So this part should also be simple. Arnie buys a rundown muscle car, obsessively restores it to its former glory, becomes all tough and manly and clear-sighted, and he gets a girlfriend named Lee. His woman-coated car? Also his girlfriend.
Show me. It's utterly sexual, and that was John. I mean, that was John said to me. He said, let this be about, show me your body.
But it wouldn't be a horror movie if it wasn't a little gay, too. See, Christine isn't just a car that Arnie drives. She can also drive herself. She can repair herself. She has a mind. And she wants to kill. Anyone who competes for Arnie's attention, whether it's a man or a woman, is at risk of being run over, choked to death, or exploded in a gas station. So Christine doesn't fit this passive role that a car is supposed to occupy, as a status symbol or a path towards sexual gratification. Cars are supposed to exert the will of the driver, not threaten to smother him to death. Also interesting, unlike a typical car, Christine speaks, and she speaks through the voices of a rotating cast of men. Until about a third of the way into the movie, there's very little original score, so instead most of the music we hear is what's playing on the radio, either in Dennis's car or in Christine. In Dennis's car, we mostly hear contemporary pop songs that are sung by women, like ABBA's The Name of the Game and Tanya Tucker's cover of Not Fade Away, which are both from the late 70s, but Christine exclusively plays 1950s rock and roll. When Christine wants to show her love for Arnie, we hear Johnny Ace. When she wants to keep someone out, it's Little Richard. And when she wants to manslaughter or car slaughter Arnie's girlfriend, it's Richie Valens. But there's another leg in this love triangle. So I guess that makes it a love rectangle. Before Arnie fixed up Christine, before he felt the warm embrace of a flesh woman, there was someone else in his life. There was Dennis. But two men aren't supposed to love each other the way that a man loves his car. Christine, Arnie's car, represents the unsuccessful suppression of his desire towards Dennis. The tragedy here is that this desire was never really unreciprocated. I could go through all the facets of Arnie and Dennis's special bond, like the way that Arnie gets uncomfortable when Dennis rattles off girls he could ask out, or how Dennis drops everything and blows off this girl that's trying to ask him out when he hears that Arnie is getting picked on. And then there's this football game where Dennis is so distracted by the sight of Arnie with a date that he sustains a career-ending injury. But I think the most straightforward example is this one. Right after Arnie buys Christine, Dennis has to drop him off back home, and this is how Dennis reacts when Arnie gets down on himself.
And I know I can fix her up.
You're not ugly, Arnie.
I know what I am.
Queer, maybe, but not ugly.
Fuck you.
So I know straight guys can and do call each other queer too, but they don't usually listen to breakup songs after their best friend leaves them for a muscle car. By displacing his gay desires onto a car, Arnie is acting the way a man is supposed to, shedding those characteristics that would have Dennis calling him queer in the first place. I guess you could argue that no, Arnie isn't just acting the way a man is supposed to, he really is becoming a man. He really just loves his car in a way that is completely non-sexual. And if it is sexual, if he really is tenderly caressing his car here, then it's fine, because cars are not men. He's just a normal straight guy who really likes his car, which is weird and evil, but definitely also a woman. But that doesn't sound right to me. Even after his transformation, Arnie doesn't really look and act the way a man is supposed to, does he? He becomes this exaggerated parody of masculinity. His voice grows deep and his intonation flat. He wears these ridiculous outfits and he looks like he's eating this girl's face when they kiss. It's almost like Arnie is in drag. Arnie's masculinity is so exaggerated that it loops back around to where it looks like he would fit right into a Tom of Finland drawing if he had a little more upper body strength, I guess. And ultimately, that's because as soon as the object of your desire has any agency of its own, it's gay. What does a man do if not drive his own car? How can we locate manhood outside of its relationship to cars? In Arnie's case, it's by overperforming the aesthetic signifiers of masculinity, but all this really does is gesture back to his lack of control over his car. This is the key. Driving your car is straight, but letting that very same car drive itself with you in it, that's not very man of you. And in the end, it's Dennis and Lee banded together in this correct model of heterosexuality that try to save Arnie from his perverse relationship. But Arnie doesn't come out of this encounter straightened out, or alive for that matter. Instead, he flies through Christine's windshield, penetrated through the chest with a piece of glass, not unlike one of the arrows that pierced the flesh of Saint Sebastian, the patron saint of being portrayed homoerotically in art. This is the return to order that often comes at the end of a horror movie, with the queer other vanquished and the status quo restored, but it's not just Dennis and Lee that brought Arnie down. If Christine functions to make Arnie's homosexuality outwardly palatable as a sort of beard for him, then she also represents the violence that repression works upon the self. Arnie denied himself an authentic life from the very moment that he chose Christine over Dennis. So maybe we can see his death another way, as the inevitable consequence of just refusing to kiss your best friend.